if you're not sure, you're not comfortable, you're not familiar with these, then, call somebody who is. Get a couple of opinions. I think most of the guys in the industry have really strong opinions and are happy to share them with you. So. Of course, I'm going to say, well, it really depends. It depends on the type of boiler and the design of that boiler. What kind of damage or failures are you dealing with? What's that annual spend look like? There's a lot of boilers out there that aren't really ideal, but they're 50, 60 years old, and they maybe leak a little bit of flue gas, but it's a well-ventilated room, and the repairs are really minor. So that's not really an end of life, even though we wouldn't put in a new boiler of that same style, and you could say that it's an outdated design. If you're not having significant issues like tube leaks from the water side or something, then that may or may not be considered end of life. So there's some of that's going to be corporate driven, or maybe driven by a local authority in some cases, but it's going to really depend. So cost of annual repairs is a big one. I really, personally, I don't want to pay more than half the cost of new to repair something old. If it's a 20-year-old or a 40-year-old boiler and I'm going to spend half the cost of a new one to fix it, maybe we should just look at what the newest and latest and more robust design is. But if you're looking at a 30-year-old wetback firetube boiler and it's in good shape and maybe needs a retube, but it's not full of scale and there's no other damage, then that's probably not end of life. I think I'd probably retube it and go for it. So it just kind of really depends on what type of design that is. A big one would be if we're looking at a dated water tube boiler design that is a tangent tube style boiler, and we're fighting significant casing leaks, that's really not going to get better. And that's probably the kind of boiler that is at its end of life, especially if we're also dealing with scaling or corrosion issues, things that are not going to be replaced with casing repairs. You're looking end of life. The other might be if you're talking about a firebox boiler or a hot water boiler that's not condensing. That's kind of becoming more and more dated. Most of the time now, hot water boilers that were used for space heating or comfort heating or campus heating are being changed over to high efficiency hot water boilers because it allows the control systems to use an outdoor reset approach and can add 10 to 15 points to our efficiency. So probably end of life when we start getting into really any repairs on an older legacy hot water boiler that's non-condensing, so a carbon steel hot water boiler. We're looking more and more at replacing that with a high efficiency hot water boiler just for the fuel savings. But that can be kind of dependent on how many hours a day are you running it, how many months a year are you running it, and what's your cost of energy. If you're burning propane in it, that's a heck of a lot more expensive. You might want to replace it even if it's in good shape, just based on efficiency payback. But if you're burning natural gas and it's hot water for a process that only runs 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, 6 months a year, you start to really diminishing returns for efficiencies. And the last might be, are there any other system goals that you have that replacing this equipment might help with? If we also need new burners, is it time to just replace the boiler with the new burners because it's a convenient time and we can put in a more modern system that has higher efficiencies or better reliability or better service or something of that nature? So maybe that's a kind of a iffy answer. There's a lot of factors. It really depends. And if you're not sure, you're not comfortable, you're not familiar with these, then call somebody who is. Get a couple of opinions. I think most of the guys in the industry have really strong opinions and are happy to share them with you. So reach out and get in touch with some resources.